Hello and welcome to EDNews-TV. I am your host, John Ayomide, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we turn our focus to the United States. Recently, the U.S. Envoy Tom Barrack said a U.S. private firm could take over the so-called Zangezur Corridor to advance peace talk between Baku and Yerevan, and the U.S. expanding its influence in the South Caucasus. To help us understand the geopolitical dynamic at play, we are joined by Mr. Neil Watson, a British journalist. Thank you, Mr. Watson, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
If we're diving straight to the question, the first question would be, how do you think the US can assess the current political and security dynamic in the South Caucasus region?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to bear in mind that the US, particularly under President Trump, only ever works according to what it feels is in the interests of the US. So it's looking at the moment at the South Caucasus as something of a void because of the fact that Russian influence is waning severely in the South Caucasus, and also Iranian influence indeed is waning as well at the moment. So seeing that there's an opportunity to be involved in the South Caucasus in a way that it's never been before, and the fact that it feels that it will put itself, if by being involved with the South Caucasus, it will put itself very close to Azerbaijani oil and gas, which, despite the Green Revolution, is still extremely important for the world and particularly for the US itself. And it just sees that also it will put itself in a prime position to benefit from some of the geopolitical changes that are taking place in the region. That with a homogenous or semi-homogenous South Caucasus, after the peace treaty is signed with Armenia, if the US is actually there, it's set to benefit very much from that. It's set to benefit from the middle corridor. It's set to benefit from various other transportation corridors that are being launched at the moment. As we all know, the US under President Trump is very pragmatic with who it's being involved with at the moment. So historically, in the past, the United States has very much been on the side of Armenia because of the American Armenian diaspora. But at the moment, it's thinking outside the box, and it's seeing that there's an opportunity here for it to involve itself at a pivotal time. With the opening of the Zangezur Corridor, which would be historic. It would be the first time that Nakhchivan Autonomous Province has actually been connected to Azerbaijan. And if it could actually be seen to be part of that, providing some kind of peacekeeping force, it will be set to benefit from the changes that are taking place at the moment. So that's the way I see it.
Okay, and we've been talking about the controls around the Zangezur corridor. What are the strategic significance that this corridor holds for the United States?
Well, in many ways, it's actually of pivotal significance. First of all, there's no way that the Zangezur corridor could have even been contemplated until a few months ago, when we started to have direct bilateral talks between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And the fact that it will be this historic link, linking the exclave of Azerbaijan with the remainder of Azerbaijan, is particularly significant. It will be sending a message to Iran, particularly, because it will show that there's going to be homogenous Azerbaijan, a connected and interconnected Azerbaijan for the first time. And as we know, Iran itself is on the cusp of change at the moment. And it also will be sending a very clear message to Russia as well, because there's the possibility that Russia is going to get some kind of quasi or semi-victory in the war with Ukraine. And it would act in some ways as being a second line against Russia for the first time. And if Russia felt that it could actually then be looking to expand its influence in the South Caucasus again, being buoyed by some kind of semi-success in Ukraine, it will actually feel that perhaps this is the point where it should stop. That if it actually decides to start encroaching in Armenia and Azerbaijan, one or the other, both of which have got very bad relations, unprecedentedly bad relations with Russia at the moment, then it will actually have the US to deal with. So I think that it's actually coming a very pivotal time for the South Caucasus and for Azerbaijan and Armenia as they step very clearly away from the Russian influence for the first time in centuries, quite frankly.
When we're talking about different, engagement from the big powers like the US, in your own opinion, do you think there is, I mean, what up implication does this engagement have on countries in South Caucasus in terms of political stability, economic development, and regional cooperation?
Well, I think that the US will be going into this, as I said earlier, for its own reasons, and it will be looking towards participating in any development and redevelopment and new gas routes and transportation links that are taking place. It will be looking to bring the South Caucasus together. It will also be looking, I believe, to actually work with Turkey for the first time, because under President Erdogan, we've been actually seeing a lot of pan-Turkic machinations taking place. President Erdogan has been striving very hard to bring together the Turkic countries, which is something that Russia, stroke Soviet Union, never wanted to happen. And I think that the United States is viewing it's better to be actually with President Erdogan, with Turkey, and with a united Turkic states than being against them. So I think that's really the reason that we're actually seeing this. In terms of stability, I think that United States under President Trump is very much looking to keep the people who are in their positions at the moment in their positions. It's seeing that President Aliyev is someone that the United States can work with. It's seeing that Prime Minister Pashinyan is also someone that can be worked with at the moment, particularly as he's walked away very much away from the Russian influence. So I think that really they will be looking to actually shore up the roles of President Aliyev and Pashinyan. At the moment, they do not want to see any political change. And if there was some kind of revolution or some kind of vote, particularly against Pashinyan, it would be looking to keep him in place at the moment, because he is someone that's very, very useful to United States at the moment. Plus, despite the fact that he can in many ways to be seen as the Armenian leader who has lost Karabakh, he has actually got a great deal of support from enlightened Armenians and members of the Armenian diaspora in the United States, because he seemed to be the first Armenian leader who's actually led Armenia away from Russian influence towards its first real independence. So I think that we would be looking to see stability and homogeneity and a good relationship, of course, with the United States if the United States involves itself in this way.
All right, just the last question before you go, please.
Sure.
To what extent is U.S. interest in Zangezur Corridor driven by geopolitical considerations, control of trade routes, or just economic benefits?
The answer is all three. I can see that it's going to benefit from any trade routes that are taking place. Obviously, China is the workshop of the world. If there is a way of getting goods to Europe and also a way to get goods to the United States easier, quicker, more cheaply, that's going to benefit it as well. But also being in a geopolitical driving position with the waning influence of Russia and indeed Iran in the South Caucasus, because we have to bear in mind that Russia has been a staunch supporter of Iran over the years. Now Russia, with its preoccupation with Ukraine, is stepping away from that. So I think that we are actually seeing that the US is actually going to involve itself more in this. It's going to see that it's going to directly benefit from this. It's going to potentially directly benefit, obviously, from Azerbaijani oil and gas going forward. Total and other American companies have been involved with the various consortiums, which have been obviously led by BP over the years. But Total has benefited, and we can actually see that. We can also see that actually at the moment, Azerbaijani oil and gas is going through the Southern Gas Corridor to parts of Central and Eastern Europe that were previously reliant on Russia. It will see again the Russian influence is waning in those countries because of Azerbaijani oil and gas. So the fact that United States can be in a pivotal position there puts itself in a very strong role in a part of the world where previously it didn't have an awful lot of hold. It had some influence in Armenia because of the American Armenian diaspora, but that was all. And of course, Armenia is probably the least of the South Caucasian states. Now it's seeing that with an homogenized South Caucasus, it could be in a pivotal leading role to benefit in the future, to be involved in future projects and also to provide finance where and when required. We have to bear in mind that Azerbaijan is still picking up after 30 years of occupation Armenia.
Correct.
It actually sees that probably it can be part of that rebuilding, that reconstruction and construction work that's taking place in liberated territories.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Nell. It was a great time to speak with you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for your question.